Coal once was king in this part of Victoria, but it's fast being deposed. The state's increasingly expensive, unreliable and dirty coal plants are shutting even earlier than expected. And it's here in the Latrobe Valley that the urgency for a transition to renewables is being felt most acutely. Josie Hess grew up in the coal mining community of Morwell, as did Stephanie Sabrinskis. They've created a podcast called Coalface to examine the changes happening around them.
If you want to be like a Morwellian, you are working in the
power stations. If you want a nice car and if you want a good house, you go work in the power stations, but now not anymore.
So I think historically we've been extremely focused around the coal industry, but when you really think about it, that's just the power industry. So we don't mind if it's coal or something else. We just want jobs and we want to make sure that we're still producing power.
Producing power in a way that creates long-term jobs for this region is something many here are hoping the next state government will prioritise.
We should be proud of what we've done in energy for 100 years, but we should be proud also that we can move forward, that we can be a piece of the puzzle of the energy transition.
Offshore wind projects being explored in waters off Gippsland could be part of that clean energy solution. But authorities still have work to do to convince some in the valley that renewables can meet Victoria's needs.
Well, I think it's foolish because a wind and solar grid is not going to run our first world electricity system.
It's not just coal that needs a clear transition plan. In Victoria, we use more of an increasingly expensive fossil fuel than any other state. Households here are dependent on gas. And while renewable energy is the future, its production and use poses a problem for policymakers. So just how will renewable power get to where it's needed?
Well, this is how. Transmission lines like these here in Morwell are the powerful arteries that will bring clean energy from around the state and pump it into our homes. And experts say we need many more of them with bigger capacities. But power lines can become battle lines.
Transmission is one of the biggest land consumers after roads, and it impacts local communities, First Nations, state forests and so on.
Let's stop those towers!
Voices of dissent have been growing against Victoria's first big rollout in half a century of new poles and wires designed to deliver renewable energy.
The towers are proposing to be 85 metres tall, and which, if you can imagine here, will just be horrendous.
AusNet's planned Western Renewables Link will run overhead lines across 190 kilometres from Bulgana in the northwest down to Melbourne. Farmer Emma Muir chairs a community movement that's preparing to take legal action over the project.
They're going to traverse some of the most beautiful country that produces terrific potatoes across the Central Highlands. It will impact our safety as well. This is really hurting a community and it's doing a lot of ill will.
AusNet has declined an interview but says it is considering putting some of the link underground. There's also confusion about who's ultimately responsible for the project. AusNet's delivering the lines, the market operator is choosing the route, while the legal frameworks fall across state and federal jurisdictions.
Everyone deflects the blame. We have to be pro-renewable, but I just think there's better ways of doing things rather than ruining our beautiful agriculture and environment.
So the future state government will be under pressure to take the lead and get the balance right.
There are losses to be had and they need to be mitigated. Those are social decisions and they are decisions that government needs to make.
The battle over transmission lines taps into wider questions like whether energy planning should be done state by state or nationally. And Labor's proposal to bring back a majority state-owned power company raises the question of just how much governments need to intervene in energy production.
The pro is we need to decarbonise quickly and government direction is essential to make that happen. I think the con is governments can be less cost efficient than the private sector.
And our skyrocketing energy bills are sure to keep the issue in the spotlight.
As Victoria's energy crisis continues to bite, both major parties are promising to drive down power bills while lowering emissions. So let's take a look at what's on offer this election to make energy cleaner and more affordable. Energy's been a key focus during the campaign. Both major parties are trying to convince voters they're the best choice to keep the lights on and the bills down. Both Labor and the Coalition are promising to provide thousands of dollars in rebates for solar panels and home batteries, and both support a target of net zero emissions by 2050. But Labor's promised to reach that goal 5 years earlier, while the Coalition says it will legislate an interim target to halve emissions by 2030. Labor's also promised to bring back the State Electricity Commission to return energy ownership to the public and open an office in Morwell, invest $1 billion in renewable energy projects and introduce the biggest renewable energy storage targets in the country. The Coalition's also promised to secure gas supply by ensuring more gas is for Victorian use before sending it interstate, unlock thousands of megawatts of renewable energy by upgrading transmission lines in Western Victoria, and invest $1 billion to support the research and development of hydrogen technology.